recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to My World. And of course, we couldn't do it without the Hall of Famer himself, the greatest professional wrestler of all time, your friend and mine, Double J, Jeff Jarrett. Jeff, how are you, man?
Oh, Connie, how we doing, my man? As you know, the listeners don't know, but it's been quite the morning. You know, hurry up and wait. You ever get aggravated that way, Connie? I wanted to come and just have a nice morning meeting and workout and eat some good food and come and sit down and just sit back and relax with you, and all wound up tight. Smoke alarms going off in the house because the batteries are dead. Just one of those days, pal. Just
You had a
one
crazy
of those
morning
days.
this morning.
Yeah, as we're recording this, as you say, it's Monday morning, so it's a Monday. I know folks can relate to that as they're listening to it on a Tuesday or maybe a Wednesday or a Thursday. So I hope your day's going well, but all good. Excited to dive into this. You're pivoting, but we'll get into the topic whenever you're ready. But hey, man, in sadder news, another weekend without football. Just letting you know.
No doubt. Another weekend without football. I don't know if it's out of bounds, but I know you've had some family stuff. I want to say thoughts and prayers to your fam and all of your extended family. Not my story to share, but I'm excited that we are here to share your story, which is going to be Ask Jeff Anything. We love throwing the keys to our audience every now and again and having a little bit of a Q&A. We're going to be all over the place. This gives you a chance to ask any type of question in the world. And we're going to start doing this more and more over on our YouTube. If you haven't already, go hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell at myworldonyoutube.com. That's myworldonyoutube.com. And we're going to be looking for questions there in the future. You want to make sure that you've hit the subscribe button and you've got the notifications bell on, because we're going to be going live here in 2024.
Love it.
Jeff, I'm excited for us to talk about, all the different questions and bounce around, but I missed last week and I wanted to at least catch up on what the heck's been going on in AEW, man. All of a sudden we've got a brand new look and feel for Dynamite, a new graphics package, a new intro, a new theme song. It all looks a little different, and boy, so does the roster. Not only do we have Will Ospreay on board, now we've got Okada on board. And last week we saw in big business in Boston the debut of Mercedes Moné. Man, it had the entire internet talking. This is quite a run of free agency pickups for Tony Khan, is it not?
I'm telling you. Marcus, if you don't mind, can you throw the tunnels back up there? The entrance, Conrad, I thought it was it's very, very interesting to hear all the different feedback. And I believe there was a sentiment online as well as internally that a lot of folks wanted the tunnels. So there was a lot of tunnel talk. By the time I had arrived here, there were some tunnels, I think, but they had altered and changed. But I guess the OG was the tunnels and the look and all the vibrant colors now. But, from time to time throughout, gosh, I can even remember a CWA to a USWA kind of rebrand and refresh and relook and logo change and all that. And it is obviously a topic of discussion amongst fans back in the Texas days, going from WCCW, the legendary letters that the Von Erichs had built through the years, and the Fabulous Freebirds and everybody that go with that. When the WCCW letters came down and USWA up with, that was built around obviously a big storyline, but lots of chatter over that. There were some long time wrestling fans that, the words would obviously say never. They never thought that they would ever see that happen. So it's pretty cool. Raw, SmackDown. I remember the TNA days when we went from different colors of red on the TNA logo, and boy, people can really get wrapped around the axle on that. But of course, the major one that I was not in favor of and voiced it was dropping TNA and going to Impact Wrestling. But anyhow, it's just kind of the nature of the business, and you kind of look at iconic logos, get outside of wrestling, and I don't know, NBA, NFL, Man, I don't know, Conrad. So I do. I like the vibrant colors that we got going on, and obviously the TNA the tunnels are near and dear to my heart because of the TNA kind of lineage, if you will. So all good, man. A lot of fun, like you said, and the free agent. Have you ever seen in a month's time? I don't think so. I think a lot of people, obviously Mercedes and Okada, but Okada and Will had been a part of the product before, but the garden lit up in Dynamite last week. So yes, exciting time. It's
you and I talked off air, and we can delete this if you're not comfortable, but we talked off air, and even you, the old school guy, and you were shocked with the walk up in Boston last week, right? I mean, it really is a motivating sign to see where the advance was and then what the walk up was. Cause I have to admit, I thought, and you've corrected me on this several times before, cause you would say, oh, Huntsville's a walk up town. And I'm like, I don't know why that would still be a thing now where you can just tap, and boom, I got my tickets. Who's walking up and getting tickets? But I'll be darned. Not only was there a walk up last week, it exceeded both yours and my expectations. How about
that, Connie? Yeah. You know what? They used to call it back in the pay-per-view industry, the impulse buy. So that's the kind of the pay-per-view language, if you will, or jargon, impulse buy. And
how hard is that? And listen, I know sometimes you and I get accused of being AEW homers, but when you're talking about an impulse buy, you're normally talking about, well, it's Friday night. I just got paid. I don't have anything going on. I don't have to be up early tomorrow. Hey, I like this thing. I'm going to go see this show. I'm going to go to that concert. I'm going to participate in such and such event. That is a totally different animal on a Wednesday night, right in the middle of your week, where you got to maybe leave work early and certainly stay up later than normal and pay for parking and get home real late and then be at work early the next Thursday. Like, that's not just a challenge for AEW on Wednesday. It's been a challenge for Monday Night Raw, but that's a little different than a Friday or Saturday night show, right, Jeff?
Well, Connie, you know how to. It's funny how you, as you're saying that, I totally forgot about this story because this happened. I walked into Boston Logan Airport Thursday morning really early, and at the counter, the Delta agent said, "Oh man, y'all showed out last night." And he went into it, and I asked him who his favorite was, but he had a 10-year-old son who begged him to go. Literally got home from school on Tuesday and started begging him then. It's funny. Yeah, but anyway, begged him on Tuesday, and the dad put his foot down. He said, no. We won't get you to bed till, 11, 12 o'clock. So he didn't actually go. And I also kind of ribbed the guy. And I said, yeah, your 3 o'clock wake up to come work the morning shift at Delta didn't have anything to do with that. And he said, no, he said, I like to get my son in bed on time, but yes. So in this day and age, and, through the years, I had a discussion last Wednesday night, Conrad, about all this and, the brand being brands, whatever the brand may be. And it can also be, the Preds went on that winning streak. And of course, you go from 90% capacity to 100% capacity when they're on a winning streak. So it's pretty cool to kind of see the impulse and the I think we can still call it in the live event business a hell of a walk-up crowd, but they ebb and flow, and so you got to be very appreciative when the tide comes in as strong as it did last Wednesday.
We're thrilled to be here with you today. You can see Jeff anywhere AEW is headed. Tickets are on sale now, AEWTIX.com. They've got a lot of really big things coming your way, including about a month from now, the Dynasty pay-per-view in St. Louis. Be sure to catch Jeff there. I understand he is going to beat Will Ospreay and Okada in a 3-way dance. So both guys, maybe one guy gets a guitar necklace, the other guy gets a stroke. I don't know all the details. I just live to enlighten and share the spoilers with you. Jeff Jarrett single-handedly stacking them up on top of each other. Okada and Ospreay kick rocks, son.
God, you feeling good today, aren't you, pal?
Man, I'm excited to be here with you because I love this format. I love Ask Jeff Anything.
Can I ask
Because,
you something on Ask Jeff Anything?
yeah, please do.
You know, it's no secret that, well, I guess Flair is the original OG, but we'll give it to something to wrestle with. As your first podcast that really blew
Okay.
up. Is
Yeah.
that accurate? Fair
Yeah.
enough. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you started adding into the roster. So I'm not, I didn't come to the party the latest, but anyway. So who came up with Ask, fill in the talent host name, anything? Who came up with the concept and where did it be born at? We've done 3 or 4 of these, and me and you always have a blast. And the eye contact, you're like, oh boy, Jeff, I'm going to get you a good answer out of this. But no, give me a little backstory on how we arrived at Ask Talent Host name, anything.
Well, I mean, listen, they've been on Reddit forever. Ask me anything. They call them AMAs.
I've done a few
And
of
so,
those.
yeah, so I think it was just, hey, let's do that, but in audio form on the RSS feed. And that's what we're doing here today. And man, we got just tons of them. So let's jump into it. Let's do one. This one comes to us from Derek Bergen. Can JJ compare and contrast the pros and cons of working out of the Nashville Fairgrounds compared to the Impact Zone at Universal Orlando? For example, I can imagine TNA could do whatever they wanted in Tennessee, but Universal had rules about what could or could not be used in vignettes, like rides and things like that. That's an interesting question. Talk to us about, how friendly or how difficult or what challenges each building presented, maybe.
Okay.
On the one hand, one's right up the street from you.
Yeah,
It's damn awfully convenient.
it's funny how Mr. Derek put in there, Mr. Bergen said, do anything you want. That was not accurate. So it's on government property, the Tennessee State Fairgrounds. It may have appeared that way, but we had built a lifetime of a relationship dating back to the 70s. It's a sad day, and I still got pictures in my phone of when they tore down the asylum. But when we set up shop in there and literally turned the sports arena into a studio and painted the entire studio black and all that went with it, that vibe, again, it's named Tennessee, the sports arena. So I'll give it the pros. That building was super hot. The weekly customers that we built up had been coming to wrestling, some of them for years and years and years in Nashville. And so there was a built-in 6th man, to use a basketball analogy, as we're in March Madness. So that was good. The dressing facilities, the show, we obviously worked a AEW Dynamite show with 18 wheelers, legit 16, 18 wheelers. But, but we still had TV truck, satellite truck. So the logistics and the parking and all that were down. But as far as producing the content in the show and the vibe, the asylum was a blast. And we had that thing rocking and rolling and ups and downs. And you could, I guess you could say bend the rules, because the security was Metro Police. Being off duty, they would come over and work, and we would use our own red shirt or black shirt security. So anyway, I've gone in depth through the shows on ups and downs of it. Universal, when we got there, and you can see kind of the iterations on the first studio look, and then we revamped it in 2 or 3 or 4, and we always kept tweaking it and the seating and to get it look right on TV. Once we arrived there, and we did, we got to a real good place at that, but we had to build our regulars, and that was at times a drawback, because it was a park experience. That's how Universal liked to, they put it in their flyers and their marketing assets, and we would have to give them the dates we were there, and they'd mark it in there. And they would always say, all right, we're going to let 150, 200, 250 of the regulars who came and had their season passes, but they would make sure that the people, so there's 2 different lines in Impact. A lot of people didn't even ever understand this. There was a line, we'll call it, with the regulars who had season passes, and they were the locals of Orlando. We would let them in, and then they also would let in people who came in through the park for a park experience. And those folks literally came in and would kind of, as if it's a hot evening, they would get out of the sun and be able to get off their feet. But they would come in and experience, but they weren't diehard fans. They weren't invested in the stories. It was more park experience. So they would leave, and we would have to have people, people would stand out those lines for hours to get in. I thought about that today, about the empty arena match, which we'll get to, that Destination X. But no, there's pros and cons to both. I'll say this: the Universal Studio was just that, built for a studio. So hanging lights, the tunnels, the look, the set far exceeded the Asylum in so many ways. So from a televised property, Universal, and rightly so, won hands down.
Ben Jones, who was a member of our ad-free shows universe. And by the way, if you sign up for adfreeshows.com, not only do you get the shows early and ad-free, you get to be a part of our live studio audience and a piece of bonus content from all of our podcasts on the network, including a bunch of other series too that you never see, like Monday Mailbag with Mike Chioda or Nick Patrick. How about Tuesdays with the Taskmaster, Lex Express, The Book with David Crockett, and so many more, all available now at adfreeshows.com. Let's talk about Ben Jones. He's got a question here. If you had the opportunity to join the WWE in the mid to late 80s, who would you have wanted to work a program with? I would have loved to have seen you and Randy Savage.
Conrad could probably answer this for me, but who would I have liked to work with in the mid 80s in WWF at the time? Yes, Randy Savage is at the very, very top of the list. And I got to have a few matches with him in Tennessee, but on that stage in the mid 80s when, the Macho, just when he took off and had Sherry with him, and just an incredible performer. But also when I kind of look at that roster, Kurt Hennig, when Mr. Perfect, because Kurt was in Tennessee, back and forth between AWA and Tennessee, we became buds. But, when Mr. Perfect, that whole persona came on the scene, and they will really strap the rocket to him. Kurt at that point didn't have any of his health problems, his back or hip or any of that. I would have loved to have worked with him. That Piper Brett WrestleMania match, Conrad, you helped me out. 87, 86, 87. That was just incredible. And then
wait, what match you talking about?
Didn't Piper and Brett work in Indianapolis?
Oh yeah, that was 92. That's WrestleMania 8.
Jeez. Okay, so I'm way off.
Anyway,
so I'll close with this on this, because Conrad, you're going to have to cut me off on this, Jeffy. I'll start just rambling here. But no, I would have loved to have worked with Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah, I could see you. And by the way, I could see your character, the Double J persona, where you were this country music singer. I could totally see that fitting into that 80s era of gimmicks too. With, you got Jake the Snake Roberts, and you got Coco Beware with the bird, and the British Bulldogs with an actual bulldog. And you've got all these big over the top characters. I could totally see if we've got a honky tonk man, we could also have a Jeff Jarrett. And I understand that may have meant you weren't necessarily carrying a guitar, because honky tonk was, but I think it could have worked, don't you?
Well, that's a great topic of discussion. And, our old pal Bruce, if he were to come on here, because when you look at, I guess they called it the golden age, but when you look at the 80s wrestling and all those characters you just went through, Vince's vision in the early 90s was, hey, this is the new generation, but the same type of personas. And they got out of bounds with the trash, a trash man and a plumber and a hockey player and all of that. But you kind of look at the vision of it all. It was over the top, larger than life characters. And the new generation, Razor Ramon, a huge part. Diesel, a truck driver, but you didn't, but anyway, so they were we were no other way to say it. We were truly the next generation of superstars. So yeah, I agree, Conrad. Double J, Jeff Jarrett would have worked in the 80s.
It could have been fun too.
Yeah.
I would love to have seen that. Brian Castle says, what advice would you have if someone wants to get involved in working behind the scenes? He called it backstage work. But that's an interesting question, man. I get people asking me questions like that all the time. I've never had a job with a wrestling company, but if someone is interested in the business, but they don't really see themselves as a referee or a manager or an in-ring performer or a commentator, so they're never going to be on air. They just want to be the guy behind the guy. They want to be a member of the crew in this traveling band of brothers. What is the best way to make that approach and try to get in the biz behind the scenes?
Roll up your sleeves, and there is no job beneath you. I like to listen to even some old school stuff, some Jim Rome or anyway, basically working on yourself. But when you kind of get into the nitty gritty, and there's a lot of great ones out there, they always will kind of uh, go into, and Conrad help me out here is, but the if you put money first, what is I know, build value. You have to create the value, and what your asset is your brain and your physical work. So when you show up to a wrestling show, they can't have a show unless the ring is put up. So how can I help put up the ring? Can I help with the steps? Can I sweep it out? Anyway, do anything you can for a ring, because every show in the world is not going to have hanging lights and production and a writing crew and a creative crew and a talent development and a seamstress and all that kind of stuff. But every wrestling show has to have a ring. So start on the ring crew, help with production, be a runner, get into the DNA of whatever promotion you are around, and don't ask for a penny. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but if you create value and if you're around long enough, when you say, all right, guys, I'd like to start getting paid. If they can't pay you, be willing to walk away and go find another promotion that you can contribute to. But you have to create value, and there is no job beneath you. If you have that mindset, eventually it pays off. Don't quit your day job. I used to hear that all the time. That would be an old timer slang word when a young guy would come through the curtain and he's had a match that might not go so well. They would always say, match, kid, not too bad out there, but don't quit your day job. And I say that, you can't look at wrestling providing for you until you build value in yourself.
I love that. I love that. Great advice. Rosenbaum wants to know, Ari, our pal says, was your dad working with Vern on Super Clash 3 hopeless? Not just about competing with Vince, but the fact that the territory promoters deep down couldn't trust each other. And we've talked about that a little bit, but it does feel like, man, there were times where everybody was just sort of, I know we're working together, but we're really not. Was that the sentiment your dad always had too?
Well, obviously I learned through life, through
Yes.
the year after year. When I was a young kid, and I had a flashback, and I'll tell you a story, because went to Memphis this weekend, Conrad. We'll get on that story in a minute, and me and Satnam at the Memphis Grizzlies. But driving to Memphis on Saturday, down and back, I've done that trip so many times. I just start reminiscing and stuff like that, and different car rides. But I can hear my dad's voice sitting in his office when he would be on the phone with Vern about Super Clash and the long-winded conversations. But, as the years go by, I think back and they would pop in my brain like, oh, this is what he meant by that. This is what he meant by that. Look, by design, when you kind of go back and look at the history of the business, Vince McMahon knew, and he was the young guy out of all those guys. He knew early, there's no way all these guys are going to get along. So I'm going to go out and do my own thing, almost by necessity. And he wanted to grow his business. My dad's attempt at working with Vern and working with Texas, they went into it guarded. It didn't work well. And Ari, appreciate your question. And I like the comma in your question, hopeless. Yeah, at the time, I don't believe my old man or Vern would have said it was hopeless. Hindsight 2020, it was worse than hopeless. They were never going to be able to agree on it because they they didn't believe in a new business model. They wanted to do it their ways and the way that it worked for years and years and years. So yes, hopeless.
Well, if you're feeling hopeless because you've been struggling with your weight a little bit, let me give you a little pro tip with Signos. Signos is the real deal, man. I have to admit, my wife and I, we vet every single product before we discuss it here on the show. And in her real life, she is in the clinical medical research business. And so when she opened up a box and saw a continuous glucose monitor, she said, honey, this is a real medical device. And I said, yeah, that's what Signos is all about. She was over the moon and excited for us to tell all of our listeners about this. Because here's the reality, something she knew that I didn't know. I was ignorant to this. The CDC estimates that there are approximately 96 million American adults, which means there's more than 1 in 3 who have pre-diabetes. And of those with pre-diabetes, more than 80% don't even know they have it. Now, why does this matter? Well, because foods that are high in carbohydrates raise your blood sugar more than other foods. And during digestion, the pancreas produces insulin, which then binds the sugar in the blood and takes it into cells as a source of energy. Now, if you have pre-diabetes, what happens is the sugar starts to build up in the bloodstream rather than fueling the cells. And when the insulin resistance occurs, well, that's believed to be the number one cause of pre-diabetes. That's why we believe that you should look into Signos. You see, a healthy weight allows insulin to work more efficiently and can help keep blood sugars within a normal range. And a healthy diet and regular exercise are the best ways to help bring your blood sugar levels back into a healthy range. But if you've never even looked at any of this, and I have not, it's something I was ignorant to. Literally, I just didn't understand it. Signos has short-circuited this learning cycle for me. Now I get data directly from my body designed for a weight loss plan that's unique to my lifestyle. Signos is the only company that combines a continuous glucose monitor, or a CGM, and Megan was so impressed with this, but it also has an AI-driven app, and that's going to deliver you, dude, real-time glucose monitoring. It's going to be exactly what you've been looking for. You can literally see with Signos which foods are going to cause your blood sugar to spike above reasonable levels. And you'll even get a real-time alert that you need to do a little bit of exercise to get them back down. Now, I'm not saying let's go change clothes. I'm saying, hey, dude, let's go check the mail. Let's walk around the cul-de-sac. Little things like that at the right time make a big difference. And on average, people make about 227 food choices a day. So you're going to learn the difference between stress eating and physical hunger. It'll also help you better manage your energy throughout the day. And the result is you're going to feel better. You're going to sleep better. And you're going to be more likely to hit those weight loss and health goals that are unique to you. I can't recommend this enough. I was totally ignorant to this. Now I understand it and I have help, and it points me in the right direction. And if you're looking to get some things under control and just start feeling better and sleeping better, why not leverage data? The CGM, I'm telling you, my wife Megan was blown away with this continuous glucose monitor. It is a real medical device. It pairs right with your phone, or if you have an Apple Watch or whatever, it'll do that too. And it'll give you a heads up, and you'll see like, hey, that glass of wine at dinner, that did make a difference. Taking a short walk around the neighborhood, that made a huge difference. And you knew when to do it. Man, it's really a life hack. Signos removed the guesswork of weight loss and provided us with the tools and knowledge that we need to develop healthier habits. It'll combine your glucose data with the continuous glucose monitor with that AI-driven app to deliver you real-time glucose insights. You're going to be able to optimize your health and weight management. And right now, Signos has an exclusive offer for our listeners. Go right now to signos.com. That's signos.com and get up to 20% off select plans by using the code MyWorld today. That's signos.com and use the code MyWorld. You'll get up to 20% off plans today. Jeff, I know you've been on top of this for a long, long time, but in a different way. But man, you've been a benefactor of understanding what to eat and when to eat it and what not to eat and when not to eat it. And if some of our listeners are trying to get in line with that, this is the way to do it, right?
Johnny, I did the read last week, so I had to kind of dive into everything. The product, it's kind of mind-blowing. And for you folks out there that might think, no, I'm good. Well, you know, if you're like me, you, without question, you have guesswork. And I'll just say this, and we'll keep on rolling through here. The carbs that we put into our bodies, you really got to know what you're doing if you're going to try to kind of balance that. And the monitor, the AI technology, it literally, obviously, the whole world knows it has changed everything. This is the real deal as far as monitoring that blood sugar, that it takes the guesswork out of all of it. So can't recommend it enough, folks. And you don't have to be overweight. If you want to really dial in to your blood sugar, and as we know, blood is the life of all of us. So you got to keep healthy blood, and too much sugar can blow you out. And I highly recommend it. Signos.
Check it out. I think you'll be glad you did. I'm pumped to hear some positive reviews from you guys. I know it's been working for me. Let's do a question from B here. Is there a space for a third company to serve as an alternative to the alternative? Something a little more centrist or right leaning in terms of their product. So, I mean, listen, I guess we know that there is, because when wrestling was hot during the Attitude Era, there was a WWF, there was a WCW, and there was an ECW. Now, frankly, we know ECW never made a bunch of money, but there is a third now, even here in America. Impact and TNA still hanging around. And certainly you've got the NWA and MLW and some others who are trying to grow. Do you think it's possible that there is a third viable, thriving wrestling company in 2024, Jeff? Or is it just a two-horse race at this point? I'm not saying in terms of who's bigger and all that. I just mean in terms of running a profitable wrestling organization.
Okay, so therein lies what's your metric? Is it social media count? Look, you can get into so many metrics, but if me and you are going to use what I think is the most important for long-term viability, it's the profitability factor. And the short answer is absolutely yes. 3, maybe 4, maybe 5. And I think us, and I'm going to say us as wrestling fans, we tend to overcomplicate it. And sometimes I still don't even really understand that term that has really blown up here, I feel, in the last couple of years, the tribalism, if you will, Conrad. And as if it's a 4-letter word, maybe. I love and I'll call it spirited debate. Now, sometimes it gets nasty and ugly and
unnecessary. Yeah.
Unnecessary. And I'll get all that, but also I feel for the most part, I really do understand the wrestling industry and my experiences from a young child, and hearing the feedback from all kinds of, being able to look at it through a different lens. And then my life depended on it. Literally, how I ate was how many butts you get in seats, or t-shirts you sold, or picture money you may have. So all that. But with all that being said, I do not think that it's that hard to drill down and say, I need to create, or we need to create, a compelling product. Wrestling is already niche. So how do you go down an avenue that is a little bit of a different flavor, and that you're going to appeal to a wrestling fan? And I'm not just saying wrestling fan, that you're going to appeal to the entertainment world and monetize it. It's when you start looking at budgets and all that kind of stuff is where you got to put your business cap on. And that is always, I respect you out of that, Conrad, and I say businessmen outside of wrestling, it's that wrestling, it's that unique form of entertainment, that it looks easier than it is, and that people make emotional decisions. And when you get into making emotional decisions, that's when things head south. And I'm not saying wrestling's analytical, because it's subjective as hell. I mean, it is truly subjective hell, but the results aren't. And if you really look yourself in the eye honestly, and quit voting continuously with your heart when you got to make hard decisions, you're going to be all right. But I do, Conrad, I think there's more than enough room, because YouTube, to me, it's that simple. The end all be all. Once the television was invented. It was, how do you get TV time? And they went through the 60s and 70s barter deals, and then the beginning of USA and rights, and now built and built and built, and now you're looking at WWE Netflix, and we're looking at renewals and all that kind of stuff. But that's at the very tip top. If you look at exposing your product, just look at the influencers of today's environment. I'm not talking about wrestling. How many followers does Mr. Beast have?
Oh, so many.
100. 100. I may be wrong.
More than that.
It's crazy.
241 million on one channel alone.
Okay. 241 million. You don't think he touches? But I'm just trying to use an example. If you create a product and know how to navigate the digital and social media and streaming world, you're going to create an audience if your product's good. It's figuring out what the audience wants. But yes, Conrad, I think there's more than enough room for 2, 3, 4, 5.
Brandon Arthur says, do you think we wind up seeing Cody versus The Rock at SummerSlam? I know that, we don't often talk about what happens on the other channel, but you're a self-admitted wrestling junkie. A lot of people think this goes one of two ways. We're going to see Rock versus Cody at some point down the line, or perhaps The Rock has been a double agent and he's going to turn on Roman and he's going to be on Cody's side. Do you think we ever see a singles match with Cody and The Rock?
Pal, what is our running thread? Creative
it's subjective.
It is subjective. So we can fantasy book all we want. Will we see Rock versus Cody at some point? Again, our running thread, creative is subjective. And you have to factor in, all the obvious. Rock's schedule, injuries.
But he's on the board.
Yeah, I was going to say there's so many things to factor in, Conrad. But the short answer is absolutely you will. I'm and who asked that question? And I don't mean any disrespect out of that, but I think the short answer is absolutely.
Great question from Brad at Mayor Realtors. Brad hit me up on the DM. What would we find in Tojo Yamamoto's ring gear bag? Now that is a fun question. What do you think old Tojo was carrying town to town?
Oh, we got a realtor question here. Okay, Tojo's bag. I had a conversation about Tojo just a couple of days ago. It's funny. So as a kid, Conrad, going to some towns with my dad and Tojo, you pull in and Tojo's driving that big Lincoln, and he's not the tallest guy in the world. So he's, a little short guy driving, and my dad's in the front seat, I'm in the back. Well, I was always volunteered to carry the bags. So I carry Tojo's. He had one of those Samsonite, and it sounded like a kind of a bag of potatoes. Like, what the hell's rolling around in there? Well, in Tojo's bag, because I've dressed beside him and carried that bag and all this, he powder. He would carry powder, baby powder.
And that's the way you pronounced it, powder?
Powder. Come here. I got powder. Yeah, I could just hear his voice saying that. Powder. I thought a powder. I'm horrible at impersonations. I wish we could do a good one. But anyway, Tojo would have his wooden shoes. He would have basically his tights, little shower bag. He would have he called them shower shoes, but flip-flops to go in the shower. He'd have his towel. I'll just say Tojo's wrestling bag was lean, to say the least. Not a lot in it. And he was a very clean person, and come back and get his shower, and let's just say he was a long showered dude. Tojo, yeah. But he always had powder. Because he used it as matches. He would get his salt most of the time from, go get me salt. And he'd have the little packets. And throw salt and baby powder in folks' eyes. So that's about what you would find. Nothing. It obviously he carried cash and he would hide that all kinds of places in the dressing room. Not always in his bag either. Sometimes.
What was protocol on that? I know once upon a time guys would get nervous when they would go to the ring because there'd be people in the locker room that were unsavory characters, and a lot of these guys would wear a Rolex and they would carry cash. This is before everybody had debit cards and credit cards. I mean, certainly credit cards existed, but you used to have to keep cash on you, and you would sell gimmicks and you needed to make change, and the promoter would pay you in cash, et cetera, et cetera. What was the protocol way back when in the territory days? Did you have like a battle buddy who would watch your bag while you were gone, or what's the process?
So good question, Conrad. I got a little OCD in me, right?
A little.
So I was never a watch guy, right? So when I would come into the arena and set up, now it depends on what era you're talking about. So in the territory days, all my money would be at the picture table with my picture seller. So it wouldn't be in the dressing room. I made a point that I didn't want to, I think I had a license and a credit card and not much, but it was always at the picture table that where my other money was. And at the picture table, we always kept security guards or a policeman or whatever out there. And I trusted that. But from time to time, new guys in the locker room, and you would hear the old timers say, let's check him out for a week or so and kind of watch him. And everybody would be not everybody, certain guys would kind of be eagle eye and watch how a guy kind of handled himself as far as, because everybody in the weekly towns had their same dressing spot. You just kind of felt it out. When you got on the road, a lot of guys would keep all their stuff locked up in their rental cars in the trunk for the most part. And then there would always be the guy that would wear his Rolex and have a lot of money and a wallet and all that kind of stuff. And some would just, if they felt comfortable enough, just leave it in their shoe or whatever. But then others would, hey man, hold this while I go to the ring. And you had a buddy system. And when your buddy went to the ring, whatever he gave you, most of the time, I would literally put it down in my tights. I would never leave it in my bag. I would be wearing a hoodie or whatever, but I'd keep it with me. And when he came through the curtain, because I didn't want it anymore, I'd watch their match or watch most of it when they come through, do the handoff. I've done thousands of handoffs to guys.
Well, last questions, because we've never talked about what's in guys' bags. Back in the day, I'm not saying it happens now, but back in the day, in the territory days, how often would a talent just take one of the hotel towels to the building with them, and that was all she wrote for that towel?
Now, what's your question?
How often were you guys stealing hotel towels?
Okay.
I know these days, Tony Khan and WWE, and they've got water bottles and catering and towels. But once upon a time, buddy, it was folding chairs, and I hope you brought a bottle of water, or you like that water fountain. I guess. I don't know.
You know what, Conrad? I may have a different outlook on this. Okay. I was told, I didn't fabricate this, that when you rent a hotel room, they factor in.
Oh God,
they factor in, I'm not going to say some thievery, but they factor in, I'm not saying you're going to take pillows and bed sheets, but
why not? Have they not factored that in too, Jeff? So you're saying, how many hotel towels you think you stole in your life, Jeff? More or less than 1,000?
Can I tell you something that drives some people absolutely bananas?
Oh, I have a feeling you're about to say, I don't know this. Let me just guess. Me knowing you, the people who are being driven bananas are Karen. And it's you saying, now, honey, we packed, we ready to go. We got to get on this airplane awfully early. Did you get your makeup bag? Yep. Did you get your phone? Yep. Did you remember the charger? Yep. Now, did you steal all those little soaps and shampoos? Are you stealing soaps and shampoos, Jeff?
It's a part of being on the road life, but I have many times taken a towel from one hotel and turned it into another hotel and left that and got a new one. I I'm a
So you're just it's like a rental car. I
recycle.
was at the Holiday Inn here, and I dropped it off here, just like if you had a one-way rental car. I get it.
One-way towel, yes. But
One-way towel.
But yeah, I mean that's many. It's kind of the price you live on the road. I've never packed a towel from home and said, "Hey man, I'm going on the road. I'm going to be taking 9 showers this week while I'm on the road. I better pack a towel." I always take one from the room, and most of the time I would return it, but it's not the end of the day that. Now, let me just say this: way back in the day, Conrad, when I'd go from Louisville to Evansville, Louisville, I'll just say the Evansville hotels, they've definitely got the surplus. I mean, every week, take one from Louisville, return it to Evansville. They probably, because I didn't want to bring it home.
They probably wondered.
Well,
think about that if you're running inventory for that hotel.
Let me
like, wait a minute, we got 40 extra towels this week. How do we have more? Nobody stole a towel. We got 40 new ones. And somebody had to be like, it's those damn wrestlers.
Yes, I'm sure that has happened in a couple of places. Yeah. And I have when you're taking me back to the territory days, there was a time that I lived in a condo. And so that was when me and Marcus, they just posted a booking sheet, Conrad. I don't know if you saw it on the My World.
I did.
We worked 9 shows in a week. So that wasn't 9 hotels. That was probably Memphis, Louisville. Anyway, let's just say 4 hotels. But, on a consistent basis, I'll just say that back at the home address of Simply Irresistible, I had kind of a running towel thing there. I ran out of closet space at one time. And I'm like, I got to do something with all these towels. Conrad, I bet I had 56. I mean, it was, just put them in that closet, fold them up, put it in that closet. And finally, I'm like, what am I doing with all these towels? So I couldn't wash enough cars to do all that. But I had a surplus of hotel towels at one point in my career.
So did I guess right? Does Karen get annoyed with you saying, let's make sure we got all the shampoos and conditioners and body washes out of the.
How about tell on the queen?
Well, no, I mean, you said some people get annoyed. You didn't say what you did. I just guessed.
No, she kind of gets aggravated on my OCD, especially, and I'll leave a room with I'll make up a bed, which drives her nuts. I leave the bathroom, all the towels in one.
Wait, you make up the hotel bed before you leave?
I straighten it up. Yes.
That wears her out.
Oh, it drives her nuts.
Because they're going to come wash it right away. They're going to strip it and wash it right away.
Yes, but I don't like to leave a room messy, which is I put all the dirty towels in the bathroom in one pile. I make it easy I'm a nice thief.
But, I love you.
Hey, but I call Karen. Hey, Klepto Karen. Hey, if it is a shampoo or a conditioner, it is guaranteed, Karen.
Oh, so that's not you. That's her.
That's her. Oh, hey. When I tell you, and the Westons and shit, and I'll joke with her and say, "Oh, honey, we're in a Weston. These are the nice shampoo and conditioner." And
dude,
when we're leaving, like if we had, walking, we're going by 2 or 3 carts, and I'll joke with ma'am, watch my wife. She there's a whole bucket there of shampoo. Don't let her get it. We joke and cut up, but she doesn't do that. But
my our personal friend Cassio Kidd, he and his wife have had a mantra for a while, and it caught me off guard once. If it fits, it ships. What? The idea being, if whatever is in this room or on this table at this Mexican restaurant, if it can fit into our bag, it's ours now. So I only found that out when I went to their bathroom once, and I was like, man, y'all got those little kind of operation y'all running. Y'all got those little hotel showers soaps in there in your bathroom. He's like, yeah. If it fits, it ships.
Well, they built that into the price of the room as well in hotels. Because they expect you to use it.
They expect. I understand that, and I think it's awesome. I know this about you. Like Jeff and I have had a bunch of different conversations offline about the things that Jeff will spend money on and the things he will not. Now, Jeff will spend a comma on lunch and not even blink. But almost anything else, no thanks. And the idea that you have somehow rubbed off on Karen, because I don't think Karen was like that when Karen came into your life.
I don't think so either.
And I think you made her frugal McDougal.
Maybe we'll just maybe. Right now, we've got a running kind of a. The Tahoe's irritating her. I'll just say that.
By the way, it has been the bane of the rest of the Jarrett family existence. Jeff drives the same car. Like you've heard, I don't know if you saw, but Christian Bale, worth I don't know hundreds of millions of dollars, drives the same like 1995 Toyota Tacoma he's always had. And when somebody pressed him on it, he's like, "It's a great truck. It works great. Why would I buy something else?" And every time I see that, I'm thinking, "Oh, that's a little Jeff Jarrett." Like
Lair. That's big Lair. Let's talk about Lair.
Well, Larry will drive them till the wheels fall off too. But I'm saying at this point, I think the rest of your family's throwing the flag. Do you think you're going to have to suck it up soon?
Oh, it's going to hurt, man. I'm not looking forward to it. No, we're rocking. We're good. We're good.
When we're talking about stuff in guys' bags, we haven't brought up. I mean, we only asked about Tojo, but I think this could be a whole nother show.
Oh, it literally, it could be an incredible. I don't know if it's a segment, but just the nuances of guys and bags on the roads. And
what's the funniest thing you saw a guy pull out of his bag where everybody in the locker room looked like he just carries that around with him? Because I'm sure there's something like we've heard, like once upon a time, guys would carry an extra razor or guys would carry extra rolls of tape. And I know some guys would carry a knife or a gun if they felt like they needed to protect themselves, but there had to be something silly where everybody was like, "You did what now?" Like I heard Nikolai Volkov used to travel with a hot plate and he would go to the grocery stores and see, "Hey, what food are you throwing out because it's no longer edible?" Take that back to his hotel room and cook his own meal on a hot plate. That way he could save a little more cash. And the idea that there's this big hulking wrestler traveling the world in the 80s, running 500 shows a year or whatever nonsense we want to say now with the benefit of hindsight, with a hot plate tickles me. Is there something you can think of like that?
when you say that, I mean, I love this guy dearly. He came to Tennessee fresh out of the Maize and Blue. Big Papa Pump. There is no doubt in my mind that it became commonplace, but Big Papa rolled in a dressing room. His bags weighed 400. They were so damn heavy. And it's like his fanny pack probably weighed 250. But I mean, he had change. I mean, anyway, but Scotty would have clean clothes and dirty clothes. But I used to get tickled to look at guys on their face. But Scotty, buddy, he could bring a hot plate out in a minute. He'd bring the hot plate out. He'd have his bag of apples and fruit. And I mean, he would like have a bonanza buffet in his bag. Eggs, some he had already boiled eggs. Sometimes he would have his shopping bag and he would have raw eggs, sitting on top. I'm like, yep, we're going to do it. And sure enough, he'd plug it in over the side. So Scotty got his protein in regardless. That Signos deal,
Signos is the real deal, man. The glucose monitor.
I wish Scotty would have had one back then because my God, he never missed an eating cycle ever. So that would always get a chuckle. Robbie, I'm trying to think the story, but he had an old newspaper that he got out.
Tell everybody who Robbie is.
Oh, Scott's brother, Rick Steiner.
Yes.
Rick Steiner. I think one time he pulled like a 4-day-old newspaper out of his bag and was reading it. We're like, newspaper's a little old. Oh yeah, it's all right. Oh man.
My goodness. I love the bag talk. Luke wants to know, now that there is no McMahon in charge of a wrestling promotion anymore, and due to the Jarrett name, does Jeff have any desire to run a promotion ever again?
That is a loaded question.
Yeah, be careful how you answer. You don't want to spoil all of our plans.
Yeah. We'll pass on that one.
We'll just let that one linger for a minute.
Marinate.
And say, what if, hypothetically? Hey, something else I wanted to ask you about. And listen, this has not been announced as you and I are recording. I mean, it may have been announced in the hour we've been on air or whatever. But there's a rumor out there that I want your take on, because I'll be honest, it doesn't affect me or my life at all.
Okay.
It kind of annoyed me a fair amount. I consider us pretty good friends. Would you agree with that?
Oh boy, this is the tee up, ladies and gentlemen.
I was offended on your behalf.
Okay.
How in the world? I mean, no disrespect when I say this, but it's going to sound like I am. How in the world is Rock's grandma going into the Hall of Fame before the Crockett's or the Jarretts? Like, from a promoter standpoint, no disrespect to the Maivias. Goodness gracious. Appreciate all that they've done. Look at that bloodline. No tongue in cheek. It's an incredible resume and lineage in history. However, if we're putting promoters in, where's Jerry Jarrett? Where's Jim Crockett? How are they not in the WWE Hall of Fame? And I understand he's on the board and it's a hot storyline and all that. And on some level, I guess maybe I get why they don't want to put your dad in right now because you work for another promotion. I get that. But what in the world would be the reason to keep Jim Crockett out?
So, Conrad, we had a quick text exchange. I'm just trying to think, but here is me percolating on this, and you're not the only one that kind of rifled off at me. Can you believe this? Can you believe that? And you've mentioned the obvious. Dwayne is on the board. The bloodline is the storyline they have going on. Yes, the Maivias, what an incredible lineage. And when you really look at everything that started the OG of the bloodline, it is a fascinating story, and they're completely deserving. But to your point of, and I'll just say, Crockett's, is Bill Watts in the Hall of Fame?
No, but I understand
Paul
why
Bosch.
he's a controversial pick.
Paul Bosch.
I don't know if Bosch is. Let me check on that.
I'm just trying to think of the territories promoters, and here's why I don't think they are.
Yeah, Paul Bosch went in 2021.
Okay, all right, so that's interesting. That's very interesting, because my thought was going to be this: this is the first year without Vince McMahon
Yep.
having the final decision.
Yep.
And up until this year, he probably, in his mind, and look, we don't know his experiences. I know he had some great experiences with my father, and I'm sure he had some bad ones. And the same with the Crockett's, and the same with the, all the other territory promoters, Don Owen, and just all of it. And I know Stu Hart's got a different set of circumstances, and Geigel and Munchnick, and all the Fritz was a talent. Anyway, but when you look just straight down to the territory promoters, I think the single biggest reason would be Vince didn't want him in. And it's his ultimate call, and there you have it, pal. So
I don't get that. Like, Jim Barnett's in.
Interesting.
Not being ugly. I'm not comparing. I don't want anyone to think that. I'm just saying, how could you deny the influence that your dad and Jim Crockett had on wrestling?
I'm obviously I'm biased with my father, but not with. When you look at, like, Ron Fuller, and I know he's not a national name,
right?
When you look at the Fullers, the Goldens, the Welches, there are some smaller territory promoters that were just, to me, incredible Hall of Fame careers. And I know Dory and Terry, fantastic talents, fantastic world champions. But their father, the promoter, I don't know if he's in. Tully's father, Joe Blanchard, he's the OG with USA Network. There is such a rich history of those territory promoters in 50s, 60s, and 70s that none of them are in, to my knowledge. And when you kind of look at the pioneers of the industry, yes, we can name, Thunderbolt is going in this year, and what a charismatic, oh my God. There is legendary stories about Thunderbolt, and we could go on and on and on, but the promoters are the ones that made it all possible in the 60s and 70s and 80s. So
it just feels and don't get me wrong, I'm really glad that Rock's grandma is going in the Hall of Fame. I think it's awesome and it's great for his family, and I'm not trying to take away. I'm not trying to do the Kanye Taylor West thing or Taylor Swift thing. I'm just saying, dude, we got to advocate for Jerry to get in. I'm going to start campaigning for that. By God, we got to start working on that. That needs to happen.
That may just say that may bring you and Milliken, Mark James. Shoot, there's a couple others. Who knows? You and Cornette may be aligned on that. You never know.
Of course, Cornette wants Jarrett in. Like, how could you argue that all these other people are worthy of being in the WWE Hall of Fame, but Jerry's not? And again, I'm not trying to compare resumes. I'm just saying it feels like an oversight now. And I don't want to believe that WWE has a hard on for your dad or for Jim Crockett. Like
just Bruce.
Oh God.
I'm kidding. I'd like to have fun with Bruce on that.
Well, if Bruce were here, Bruce would say the only hard on I have these days is thanks to Blue Chew. It's a unique online service that delivers you the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Take them anytime, day or night, so you can plan ahead or be ready whenever an opportunity arises. And the process is so simple. You sign up at BlueChew.com, you consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. And here's the best part. It's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA, prepared and shipped directly to your door, all in a discreet package. But there won't be anything discreet about your package. And Blue Chew wants to help you have better sex. So discover your options at BlueChew.com. Chew it and do it. And right now we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code MyWorld at checkout. Just pay the $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com. The promo code is MyWorld and you'll receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast. And I want to remind everybody, in my real life, man, I'm helping people save money at SaveWithConrad.com. We're routinely helping our podcast listeners save up to $800 a month. And how are they doing that? Well, let me ask you, do you have credit card debt? Do you feel like you're stuck making the minimum payment? Wouldn't it be nice to get a lower monthly payment? That's what we help people do. Keep more of their own money at SaveWithConrad.com. Let me explain. Once you've ran out and ran up this credit card debt, or personal loans, or car loans, or a home equity line of credit, or a second mortgage, once you've taken the loan, you owe the money. It's up to you how to pay it back. Doesn't it make sense to pay it back and save as much as you can in the process? That's what we're talking about. Let's take some of your high interest rate credit card debt that's at 28 or 31%, and let's get it down into a tax deductible, much lower rate at SaveWithConrad.com. We don't say no at SaveWithConrad.com. We say not yet, but here's how. We want to set you up for success. We want to be your mortgage advisor for life. You've got a friend in the mortgage business. So if you've got questions about buying a house, about improving your credit score, about paying off your debt and getting a cheaper monthly payment, look no further than SaveWithConrad.com. That's where you can get a quick quote, or you can call and talk to me personally, toll free at 888-425-0105. Or just drop me an email. Yes, it really comes to me, Conrad at SaveWithConrad.com. And let's start saving your family some money with my family at SaveWithConrad.com. NMLS number 32416, equal housing lender, SaveWithConrad.com. Jeff, Tom Campbell, your boy.
Oh my gosh.
He says, anything we want to hashtag ask Jeff, faction names, his WCW 2000 title reigns, faction names, his favorite WWF moments, faction names, or the name of his faction in AEW, hashtag Ask Jeff, hashtag total nonstop arseholes. Man, what's going on with Tom Campbell? Why has he decided that he wants to have you professionally branded as an arsehole I'll be honest, it seems like he's cruising for a bruising, my man.
Connie.
Is it time? Does he need a guitar necklace?
Oh, he needs a lot more than that. You know, he was out on St. Patty's Day, couldn't put a sentence together if his life depended on it. And he had a bunch of bums sitting on the street corner in unison talk about total nonstop arseholes. Did he really send this question in?
He really did, yeah.
No, he put that back up there, Marcus. I want to see something.
That's the real tweet, man.
He is the biggest idiot in the world.
How about that?
Conrad. He goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on Twitter and filling up my feed, and he thinks he's funny, and people are chiming in, and y'all are best mates and best buds and blah 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 blah. And Conrad, do you have any suggestions how to maybe how to handle this situation? You've probably had people that are irritants, like a little
oh, it's to that level. You're ready to take him out?
Yeah, he needs to go.
Well, I mean, from what I understand, you're going to be going across the pond sooner rather than later. I mean, they have you do a lot of media over there. You think before All In, it'll be time for him to just tote the ass whooping he deserves? Because I'm for it.
Are you?
Oh, dude, that'd be great. Can you imagine how good that would be for our YouTube channel?
Just to
take old Tom Campbell to the woodshed. I mean, who'd he ever beat anyway?
Just jump him on Cultaholic set.
Yes, figure four the shit out of him.
Okay.
Maybe you could even see what Jay Lethal's up to. Maybe we could drop a little machismo on him.
Yeah, I guess we're supposed to be the duo of arseholes.
Why don't we just have him go nose to nose with Satnam Singh? You got a ladder?
You know who's most irritated by this? The Queen.
Oh, that's the person. Here's the real deal, folks. I know what you're thinking. Jay Lethal, man, he's like the most decorated wrestler in Ring of Honor history. I don't want to mess with him. Jeff Jarrett, my God, he's how many times Intercontinental Champion and NWA and WCW World Champion? I don't want to mess with him. Satnam Singh, that dude's 9.5 feet tall. There's a whole movie about him. He's 1 in a billion. He'll kick my ass. The real bulldog in the whole group, Karen. That's the one you don't mess with. In real life, I'd be more likely to start a fight with Satnam than I would with Karen.
Have you seen the Be in the Dark Order videos? She gets,
of course,
she gets a little salty on those. So
I'm just saying,
Campbell, you got the Queen coming after you sooner rather than later. I'll just leave it at that.
Don't give her a reason. There's a little spoiler for you. Austin wants to know, hey there, guys. What's Jeff's favorite design of the world title throughout all of wrestling history and why? Man, I love when we get belt nerd questions. What's your favorite belt design of all time?
Conrad helped me out, but that one. What?
Yeah, the domed globe.
That's just called dome globe.
Yep. The old 10 pounds. You can call it that too.
Oh, is it the old 10 pounds? And the one behind me is
that was never called 10 pounds. That's big gold. And then the other one is 10 pounds of gold or the domed globe. If you're a real nerd, it's domed globe. If you're a casual wrestling fan, it's the 10 pounds of gold.
So dome globe. I feel that's that in the, give me the version of that I wore of the IC title. And yes,
oh yeah, it's over your shoulder. The Intercontinental.
My bad. Yeah.
The other shoulder. Yeah. The Reggie Parks Intercontinental. The Savage IC is the way I call it.
The Savage. Okay. That's what I have an affinity for. You're going to smack me when I say this, but the Savage, Warrior, Kurt,
Honky Tonk, Brett, Sean, yes, Razor.
So is it called the Reggie IC?
Well, it's Reggie Parks made the design, but it replaced the design that he did not make. So that was really the first Reggie IC, and the thing that replaced it was a Joe Marshall IC. That's like the one, the Rock one, that was kind of oval shaped.
Yep.
And it had purple leather. I think I'm colorblind, but people tell me it's purple. But I like the Reggie IC. So the one you're talking about, when I think of Kurt and Perfect and Texas Tornado and yourself and Razor and Sean, and then before that, of course, Randy Savage and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Well, I like that, and I like the dome globe. But the reason I do, I think it's a classic deal. But I think and I get nowadays you got to adapt with the times, but I'm a stickler on, before yeah, okay. You know what I'm a stickler on talent wearing belts to the ring, if at all possible. I'm not talking about when you've got, uh, you know, $8,000 suit on with a Rolex, but if you're going to the ring to wrestle and you can, and I know I'm not, it's subjective. There's some situations where you
You
wouldn't.
want them to wear the belt.
Yes. And I think you can get too big and I think you can get too small. And I think both of those belts, regardless of the size, I'm 6 foot and I think they look all right. I've seen Razor Ramon. Scott was 6'6" and 280. And I thought that looked
great on him.
It looked so damn classic on him. Savage is more my height. Brett's more my height. You just a different size, but that, and then when you kind of look at the Dome Globe, and obviously Flair's the standard bearer. And what year did that come into existence, Conrad? The Dome Globe?
I think it was 72. Let me look that up.
So prior to that was that small one that Dory wore, right?
And that's the one that Bruce loves. Bruce really loves.
Really?
Yeah, man, that's his favorite.
Oh, I can remember, when I'm a kid looking back at old photos and I'm like, look at that rinky dink belt. What the heck are they
Man,
doing?
I think it's all what you grow up on, Jeff, if I'm honest with you.
Yep.
And he just, for whatever reason, that's the one that he's always asking me about. Hey, you got any leads on that? Hey, when's the last time you saw that? I mean, he really likes it.
Does the one exist? Is it in existence somewhere?
I'm not sure where it is, if I'm honest with you. I really don't know. But I think I know that they did the old didn't they switch out the belt when Harley Race dropped it to Jack Briscoe? So I guess that would have been 73 when they got a new belt. So yeah, the new belt debuted, the belt you like debuted in 73, and they used it for 13 years. And then in 86, that's when Flair brought out the big gold, and that was it.
Interesting.
So you like the one before that. But again, that would have been the one in your peak fandom.
That's
73. It. That was it. Yeah.
You said till 86. So 82, 83, 84, 85. That's
your peak fandom, 82, 83, 84, 85.
I started working in 86. So I'd have to say 83 through 85. I mean, and the territory here in Tennessee was red hot. I mean, and all the guys that had come through, if you get into 81, 82, Kaufman was, I'm just all kinds of stuff, not just the Kaufman deal. That it was red hot. The Fabs and the rock and roll. And
by the way, I hate to get on my soapbox, but you said it. Kaufman's in the Hall of Fame. The guy who put Kaufman in wrestling, not in the Hall of Fame. The guy who put the Ultimate Warrior and Sting in wrestling, not in the Hall of Fame. I'm just saying, you think about all the people who came through Memphis, including The Rock. The Rock just cut a promo on SmackDown on Friday night talking about how Memphis was home. No, why was Memphis home? Because they had good barbecue? Nope. Jerry Jarrett, by God, put him in the Hall of Fame next year. Let Karen accept it. Let Cody accept it. Who cares?
Conrad, I did Memphis Grizzlies Saturday night.
Tell me about that. I saw you out there being an asshole. What's up with that?
What?
Well, I don't know. It looked like they were doing something for Jerry Lawler, and then you came out, and I didn't even exactly hear what you said, but I've seen you hold a microphone like that, and it didn't look kind.
Conrad, I just spoke the truth. That Dave Brown he's a crooked commissioner of Grind City Wrestling, and I don't like to deal with folks when they're being crooked. And just to your point, they're giving Lawler a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I went out there and looked at that belt, and I'm a belt nerd like yourself. And I just said, Jerry, you are as useless as that belt is. And, I think I added, I said, you're as useless today as that belt is today, but something along those lines. But no, Memphis Grizzly, they have a yearly deal, and Grizz, the mascot, is the champ down there at Grind City Wrestling. But to your point, I was going to say, so I went down there. They refreshed my memory. They called it, this ties into it, my Hall of Fame year, 2018. Me and Lawler actually wrestled at Grind City Wrestling. They have a wrestling ring up on the mid-tier, but it's a 14-foot ring, and it's really cool. They got spotlights on it and cameras, so the whole arena can see it. They've produced it. They produce it very well in a kind of a running theme. And Tottenham kicked 4 guys' ass and choke slammed, and
Can you just do me a favor?
Yeah.
Next time you're going to go interrupt something like that, can we throw that graphic back up there, that photo back up there, Marcus? Next time you're going to go interrupt them, will you do me a favor and leave Dave Brown and leave Jerry Lawler alone? They're legends. Choke slam to death, guitar to death. That nothing happening, son of a plumber, Dustin Starr.
Okay.
I mean, Dustin Starr is the guy who deserves a headshot out of those. Don't hit Jerry Lawler. Don't mess with Dave Brown. Dustin Starr, he's ready. I mean, with that head of hair, he may not even feel that damn guitar. Let's just see.
Yeah, I need to crack his ass, but
he's overdue.
Yes, he is.
He's been hanging around Memphis for 30 years waiting on a guitar necklace.
He needs one. He needs one. It was a hell of a night. But Connie, I had a conversation with the guy because SmackDown was in the building the night before.
That's right.
Yeah. So he commented on Rock did a promo or interview and hey, what's my TV? What's my favorite channel when I'm in Memphis? It's Channel 5 Wrestling. Well, he went through all that. But boy, this he was a legit front row Grizzly watcher. So $1 seats. But we carried on about a 10-minute conversation, and man, he went down that road, and he said, he led it with, "Hey, you weren't here last night, were you?" I said, "No, that's the other guys." He goes, "Oh yeah. And so, but you could tell he wasn't a daily watcher, but he went into, I mean, big time. He said Rock was just the last one, and he went through the whole deal, and he remembered, like, hey, you remember, and the whole Jackie Fargo, Tojo Yamamoto, but then he went down the whole list that you're talking about, and he just said, man, he said people in this town still remember Jerry Lawler, Jerry Jarrett every Monday night. Anyway, just it's so ingrained in that city. It's to me, it's amazing. And yeah, I thought it was pretty cool that The Rock showed him some love in a big way. So Memphis is near and dear to his heart.
Maybe he'll show your dad some love and throw him in the Hall of Fame next year. Maybe Rock could induct Jerry Jarrett next year. I'd be down. I'd be down with that. Jerry Lawler could do it.
There you go.
Sure. Hey, great question here from Chris. Let's get back to our topic. We're doing Ask Jeff Anything. Hypothetically speaking, if Owen hadn't passed away in 99 and he worked into 2000, 2001, would this have altered Jeff's decision to leave the company in 99? Now, that's an interesting question because I know he was your pal and I know that you guys had traveled a lot together, but certainly that whole situation with Owen, we've covered it in the archives. To say the least, it sucked. I mean, that's the understatement of a lifetime. But the reason you left was really a contract issue, not necessarily I'm not having fun anymore, right?
Yeah. But it goes without saying the dynamic, I think in a lot of ways, it's a hypothetical. So it's impossible to know, but on the one hand, it obviously completely, there was zero chance of us weaving back together, which that was quasi in the cards of the Blue Blazer and just how all that was going. I was in that mixed tag the night of his accident that, me and Owen, we didn't do a split up of the team. So believe me, I've kind of gone into this on some other podcasts, but I didn't at the time, but certainly analyzed it, and fans have through the years in so many ways. It would have definitely altered the creative process because my gut tells me that I would have ended up back in a tag situation with him. Because again, we didn't quit tagging for any particular reason. We kind of altered it as he was doing his Blue Blazer persona that night. It wasn't one of the big four. So I kind of feel we would have been put back together. And then, who knows, that would have changed the China storyline. And yes, it would have altered it. How? I have no idea.
Great question here from Aaron. Do you still have the David Von Erich robe that Kerry gave you?
No, that we'll just say all storyline. All storyline. I still get people just about every week. Hey man, have you seen the Iron Claw? And now I'm to the point, honey, we need to watch the Iron Claw. But about the cameo of the guy playing my dad. So, but no, that was storyline.
Really interesting question here from Robert Egan. He says Cornette recently said that in 2006 or so, Scott D'Amore tried to pull a power play to take over TNA from you and Dixie. Any memory on this, or what is your perspective? You know, I've never really talked about this before. I know you're pals with Scott D'Amore now. I saw y'all pretty chummy a few years ago at Top Guy Weekend for Adrees Shows, so I know it's all water under the bridge. But do you remember there being a power play for Scott D'Amore to try to take over in 06? I hadn't heard of that.
So I wouldn't call it, but look, sometimes I'm not naive, but by 06, the Carters had done the, we brought another buyer to the table. What was that? 04-ish. I always get these months wrong, and they made it very clear they were not, they obviously did that in 2013 as well, but made it very clear they had no interest in selling it, no matter what they said. But in 06, the set of circumstances, they had brought in 1, 2, 3. I believe this is either the third or the fourth kind of acting CEO. I don't want to say that because Dixie was president and I was whatever you wanted to call me. Until I left, I was still the single largest shareholder in the company, for whatever that's worth. And at that time, creative and talent, but they were wanting, in prepping for another podcast, and I was looking at different numbers and ratings and all that. And I just think back and I always have the flashbacks that Panda, they never quit holding our feet to the fire. And they always wanted more, and they wanted bigger return on their investment and wanted to continue to cut expenses. And there was a time in that 06, there was a gentleman by the name of Frank Dickerson who didn't know wrestling at all. And him and Scott became buddies. And that is when, at one point, again, I'd have to really look at the timeline because as far as the creative, they said, hey, let's turn this into a committee and not just have the buck stop with Jeff. And I'm like, historically speaking, that never works. You need to have the buck stop. But they put Scott on the kind of in charge of the committee, which, okay, we're going to have a vote, which are you really in charge of it? To me, and I said this back then, and I'll say it now, okay, that means you're just more in charge of more headaches. And we're going to create more problems by creating a voting system here because creative is subjective, and we're never going to be able to land on one single decision, and we're just going to be wasting a lot of time. But at that time, Scott had kind of moved into a position where Panda was not sure of the direction they wanted to go. Again, when you factor in Dixie still being relatively young and chiming in, and then, about this time, I think my dad was bought out and he exited, or within the 12 months or so of that. We're striving. We hadn't quite got the Spike deal, or we were just talking about that. So there was a lot going on. And Scott did make a move to kind of, I don't know if you want to say takeover. I don't know how the exact question was, but he wanted to be in charge of creative.
So he wasn't trying to take over the promotion. He just wanted to have a bigger role in creative.
Yes. That's fair enough. Yeah. Not take over.
Here's one from Martin Watchhorn. It's a fun one. If the legendary Double J found a DeLorean, maybe a special DeLorean, and he could go back in time, what time in his career would he choose to respend his days, and why?
Good old Martin. So it has to be, Conrad, if I'm reading this, I have to go back in my career or at any time in the wrestling business.
Well, it says in his career. So you go back in time to your career. Do you want to relive the Memphis days, the Dallas days, the WWF New Generation days, the WCW days, the Attitude Era, the WCW 2000, some part of the TNA run?
Do I get to kind of correct mistakes? What kind of brain do I have? Do I have to go back and use my brain of the time? Whatever. If I could, the wisdom now, I'd love to navigate by October of 99 to, we'll call it December of 99. No, October of 99 till October of 2000. No, that's WCW. So it'd be 97.
October 99 is when you walked out.
Yeah. No, so I'm going to go, my bad, 97. October 97
to October of 99.
Oh, yeah, or 98, just that 1 year. Yeah. Yeah. Those 2 years.
So I don't know another way to ask this.
Yeah, go
In
ahead.
October of 97, you wouldn't have stepped on your own dick in the promo. That's it.
I would have gone and addressed it directly. I assumed, hey, this has been approved by the head chief.
Yes.
Hey,
what do they say about assumptions, Jeff?
I'm a dumbass. Yes. I mean,
well, the old saying in the South, if you've never heard this, is when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me.
Boom.
Which is the way you spell ass, you and me. Anyway.
Yep.
I just
you and me. Hey, Connie.
You make an ass out of you and me. I really didn't think you were going to say that, but that makes a lot of sense because, yeah, man, you came over as a hot free agent from WCW, but after that, it does feel like,
oh, the air was like that for. It took me a year to rebuild my career.
Wow.
It's easy to look and because you go back and because of my world and YouTube and the clips, night one, literally, and this I know is a different era, but the jumping ship back to those guys, the promo was red hot. Can you imagine if we had followed up on that for the next month?
That would be unbelievable.
Yeah. And all it would have taken. Hey, Steve, can I get a little feedback on this? Well, sure. Don't go say that. Okay. All right. I hear you. What can I say? Because this is kind of the point that I'm trying to make, and kind of landed on whatever ground it would have been. Things would have been different.
Well said. Let's do one from, and boy, I don't know if you've even put any thought into this, but Brooke Gordon has a great question. How long do you think you'll be wrestling for, Jarrett? Now, of course, this comes up because we just saw, Sting have his last match, and someone posted a graphic not too terribly long ago saying Sting, a WCW legend, had his last match in AEW, and we believe Diamond Dallas Page wound up having his last match in AEW. Do you have an end game in mind? I mean, I know if we had a rear view mirror, we'd go back to when you and I first started doing this podcast. We didn't think you'd be wrestling now, but here you are. But have you put any thought into that about what the end might want to look like for you?
Honestly, I have not, other than, me and you and our joint account, we pay for JeffJarrett'sLastMatch.com. No kidding.
Well, it's not a lie.
I don't. I truly don't, because we've said this. I mean, kind of fast. I mean, my bad. Rewind to even 2018 when I did the Royal Rumble and did a couple of things, before I went into my full-time
right
with those guys' employee job. I even thought it in my head, obviously I'd been sober a year, and that I thought in my head right then, okay, that's probably it. Maybe a cameo here and there, but I mean, I thought that's 2008. That's 6 years ago. That's crazy. So I would have never dreamed. We've gone into details. Ric Flair's last match, how all that rolled out. Would have never dreamed that. So I definitely have no idea. Don't give it any thought. I used to take things 1 year at a time. Now I just kind of take it a day at a time. I'm enjoying the hell what I'm doing. I think we are, when I say we, the group, it is an unusual group that has a dynamic that I've really never been a part of. And Satnam, you know, he is truly a 1 in a billion. And Jay's skill set, Karen's skill set, Sanjay's skill set, but it's a unique package, and we can be in a single. And you know, you can take any three of us. Jay was in the Continental Classic tournament just fine. You could take Satnam and give him a single run. You could give me and the one-offs like I've done against Orange Cassidy or the Texas Chainsaw. You can tag me and Jay up, and I think you could tag me and Satnam up, or Jay and Satnam up, and let me manage. I mean, just the climate in 2024, I think we're as diverse and can plug and play just about anywhere. We did the flaming tables match on Collision, and that number was, you know, I'll just say I'll take it. Nice. No, so I don't, Conrad. I really, really don't give it any thought.
Really interesting questions I want to follow up with. We've got a few I want to hit before we got to get out of here, but this is a great one from Sean Brown. Do you think that because WWE owns the IP for characters like Undertaker, Bray Wyatt, and Kane, that there might be somewhere down the road where we might see someone reprise these characters? Is it that different than there being multiple actors who've portrayed James Bond? That's an excellent question, Sean, because the way you described that is the way it happens in AAA. Like there's been multiple La Parcas and yada, yada, yada. Like they own the IP in Mexico, and it sort of becomes like Mickey Mouse at Disney World. Well, today at Disney World and Disneyland, and there's multiple properties because you go to Disney World Japan and all that. Anyway, there's multiple Mickey Mouses. That's not the same guy who was doing it at Steamboat Willie back in the day. Do you think that with this new paradigm shift, I know this has always been a no-no in American wrestling. I really do get that. But I'm saying with this new paradigm shift of, hey, wait a minute, WWE owns this IP. TKO is now the parent company. There's been multiple Batmans. There's been multiple James Bonds. Do you think there's a chance in the future that the new leadership might say, why not? Let's go do it. This is Undertaker 2. What say you?
Buddy, timing is everything, and creative is subjective. But can you imagine? And again, when I say timing, I'm not talking about you know, the mechanics of a match. I'm talking about the whole essence of a storyline and the build, right? And again, you know, you have, I'll just use, can you imagine the right set of circumstances, the gong go off, the Undertaker gong?
Right.
And look, Mark's doing one-man shows now, and he's very active in podcasts and all that. So maybe today the time isn't right. I don't know. But do I think it's a real possibility? I think it's almost a guarantee.
That somebody else does the Undertaker character.
Hell yes.
I think so too. It feels inevitable because we've seen how it works in Mexico. It can work.
To a unbelievable successful, and it's really, it wouldn't be possible in this case without Mark's incredible run.
Yes.
Same with what you just said. There's multiple situations and instances in Mexico that it's the nature of the beast, and it's God. It's so, as a creative guy, man, that would be fun to write. Oh my God, fun to write and book and everything that goes with it.
We're gonna piss some people off with this one. Singpef wants to know, hi, I love you both. Huge fan. Ask Jeff who you personally think is better, Brett or Sean, and who you would have rather had a WrestleMania main event match with. So, man, this is an age-old thing. Are you a Brett guy or a Sean guy? We know that you have said many times you felt like you had your best match at In Your House #2 against Shawn Michaels. So, two-part question. Are you a Brett guy or a Sean guy? And if you had to work a WrestleMania main event, is that a different answer? Who would you rather take, Brett or Sean?
I've said this multiple times, and look, I was always, Brett had a unique I'll call it not just wrestling skill set, but aura about him, the hitman, and everything he brought to the table with that persona, his persistent attitude, and kind of the rise up through the ranks that, he was, we talked about 80s characters. He was the Hart Foundation with Jimmy Hart and everything, but he's also second generation with his father. So absolutely no disrespect to Brett and his title reigns and everything he brought to the table. But I said it in my Hall of Fame speech. I think Shawn is one of those guys that is, the Michael Jordan of professional wrestling. And you kind of look at his body of work, his back-to-back years against Taker. Shawn is my height and Taker is 6'8", a huge man with incredible athletic ability, but their match is just off the charts. And then you take Shawn and Brett, Shawn and just fill in the blank over and over and over. Old Nate got hot at me saying, I can't believe you said he was the Michael Jordan. Anyway, that's how I've always felt that Shawn could have a match with anybody and make their he rising tide. Just an incredible talent, and his promo skills when Shawn was dialed in, and I mean really dialed in. And I like him. Yes, he's a hell of a baby face when he wants to be, but a heel Shawn
is the best Shawn.
Is really dialed in. You just, because he's so damn good, you kind of gravitate for, I want to see him get his ass beat as far as drawing money and making money. But no, I've said it, and it's a no brainer. WrestleMania main event match, Shawn.
Wow. There you go. We're just going to get some people talking. I don't know how much of the current stuff we can talk about, but here's a great question. I'll let you answer it diplomatically as you may want to. Pip2323 says, any insights on AEW's future of running venues as far as new markets and size of venues? There's been a lot of discussion. I know that behind the scenes, Rafael Morphy's no longer there. We've got a new crew who's come in, and we've started to see some new exciting announcements. Can you give us a tease for anything that AEW might be working on in the future?
So what was the top of the question? Did you ask?
Any insight on AEW's future of running venues as far as new markets and size of venues?
Look, this is not a check the box answer. This is the real deal. And you can talk to inside the wrestling business or outside the wrestling business. You're always looking for new venues that are opening, that may be a pocket of in a community, because Chicago, I mean, we're going to Highland Heights. That's in Cincinnati. That's not downtown Cincinnati, so it's right across the border in northern Kentucky. That is a new venue, Truist Arena. So we've got different markets coming up that we may not choose to say the NBA arena. You go to another arena. I mean, there's AEW, wrestling industry, music industry, all of that. We're always looking for the hot venue. And most of the time, the hot venues are the newer ones that are just opening, or we just did one in Houston. Now, what was that? Not Edinburgh. Yeah, maybe Edinburgh. That was a hell of a arena, and we did great business there. So I think in this day and age, you have to really focus on that building, that venue relationship, because the venue is not just basically a place that you back up to and roll your TV trucks in. They're your marketing partner in the city. The media relationships, the how they're dialed into the DNA of the community, obviously parking and all the traditional stuff. So the insight is something that's really never changed. The cool part is there's so many more new arenas out there that just continue to open and open and open. You know, we're going to London, Ontario, Canada. We're going to have a hell of a crowd up there. And, you know, that isn't quote unquote a traditional regular TV wrestling market. And that's something that I think is a real upside. But then on the flip side of that, you know, we just TD Garden, Boston. That's one of the nicest NBA arenas, hockey arenas in the country. And we did, pardon the pun, big business there.
Dan Potts has a similar question. Is there a stadium that hasn't hosted pro wrestling that you wish would? That's a fun one. You talked about how, you know, that's always a part of the promoting business, always looking for new venues. Lots of big buildings have held wrestling events at this point, stadiums. Is there a stadium that, as a sports fan, you take a look at and say, man, how cool would that be with a wrestling ring right in the center of it?
Oh boy, I mean, you know, Nashville is building one. Supposedly Mania is going to be the very first event in there. I think Chicago is building a new stadium or something on the books. They're going to have big events, but you know, Dallas and Jerry World and SoFi.
Dallas had one.
Yeah,
SoFi had
all
one.
these guys, you know, Miami.
Atlanta hasn't yet, right? Have there been a big wrestling thing in the new Atlanta Falcon Stadium? I don't think so.
So WCW was the old, right? Because that's
Yeah, they tore that down though.
So the new place. Okay. Here's where I was going with it. But see, they've done it before, but with today's production capabilities,
Yes.
wouldn't it be cool to go to Yankee Stadium, Wrigley Field, Fenway Park, a baseball? And I know
You're a baseball guy, yeah.
just because you can create some really cool sight lines.
Yes.
And just have kind of a iconic field. And there's so many ways you can kind of build a set out. You know, if you have the entrance from center field and do the long entrance there and put that ring essentially over second base and floor seats all around it. You know, we did it in Houston a couple of years ago. So, you know, you can really bring a cool vibe. But those historic, iconic baseball stadiums, I think have a real magic to it. That, like, you know, I'll just say it. I know they've had wrestling at Wrigley, but man, wouldn't it be cool to have a big event there?
Dude, there is no doubt. I mean, I just had an idea that I just texted you in our private chat there because it immediately got my wheels turning. Like, oh, what about this? Don't say it on the air because we might actually want to do that. But we'll do one last question, and it's all about right. The thing I just sent that makes all the sense in the world, doesn't it? Just saying, hypothetically, I'm not saying we're planning promotion ideas, but you know, we might be. Who knows?
Conrad,
What?
Marcus, earmark this, clip this, however you want to do it. That is up.
I just came up with an idea, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Hey, and I've
you gonna help me on your end? Because you know people.
Sure am.
We got one last question, then we're gonna wrap it up. Boy, we just pissed everybody listening off because they're all wondering, what are you talking about? What are they doing? What are they planning?
We're inviting them into the story. Come on.
But let me just say, this time people will remember this moment because that was a good idea.
It is.
Last one. Leland Patterson says, hey Jeff, not sure if you have any insight in this, but if so, what goes into a touring schedule? Like, how does a company, how do they decide when to go where, and what factors does it take into account? I mean, this is something that we've seen a lot of people sort of armchair quarterback when they've been critical of AEW, and they would say, oh, they ran the wrong towns or they ran too many towns. I mean, there's all these armchair quarterbacks in wrestling, but I'm curious from your perspective, when you're putting together a touring schedule, and I know you've done this a few times, I know routing is important. We got to get trucks and we got to get set up and all that jazz, but is there more to it than that? Just tell us some of your old school best practices you've learned in the wrestling business about that.
And look, it is such a subjective, imperfect science, and seasonally it can just become a complete nightmare. Like right now in certain cities, you're fighting NBA, you're fighting NBA basketball, NHL hockey, college tournaments and playoffs. A lot of music is cranking up. A lot of folks start their arena tours in March, April. It is so competitive, and to me it's a world of dominoes. And for example, we'll call, and I'll put WWE and AEW obviously separate, but it's a wrestling show. So we're not a Live Nation. We're not a, Outback Concerts or basically a music promoter that can go to a venue and say, hey, I'm going to bring you 4 shows in 2025. I'm going to bring you 6 in 2026. And by 2027, I think I'm going to bring 8 acts. Okay. So you're working with the entity that's going to be in your market and create revenue for you as a venue. 4, 6, 8 times. That's a big deal, like a rig bill deal. When you have a venue and you go, okay, for hockey, I've got to give my home team. So that's what is it? They got 82 games. So there's 41 dates there, and there's some venues out there that also have basketball. So anyway, you got your home tenant that is the anchor, and you got to build the schedules around all of that, and then load ins and load outs. And then you have the Felds and these big promoters that just bring quite a bit of entertainment in. So kind of right out of the gate, okay, yeah, you are wrestling and you're bringing something that's going to do well here in the venue, but this date's not available and this date's not available. And all right. So then, okay, we for sure want to run this pay-per-view in this market, and we got to keep our trucks. And that's when the routing goes. And so you gotta, look in a radius. Oh man, that's too big of a jump. And in our world, where our jumps are from Wednesday to Saturday, obviously Dynamite to Collision, WWE's Monday to Friday. So if you really want to look at that jump, it's really Friday to Monday. So you got to have touring, and it is a real challenge, folks. It is. That's why we love the new markets. We'll call it sometimes the non-traditional. At TNA, because of our size, sometimes, we did run the big buildings often, but even the B and C markets who may have an arena football league or whatever it is, pro sports, but it all goes into these venues. And when you're dealing with, the promoter, how many events you're going to bring me this year? And a lot of times they know for sure that wrestling is coming in one time this year and one time only. And so it's a challenge. It's it's so much more challenging. And look, the wrestling fan is all about either complimenting or criticizing, whatever it may be. It doesn't matter, down to venues and routing. But it's a damn challenge, man. It really, 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 really is difficult.
Well, it's not difficult to get excited about what we're doing next week, Jeff, because next week, as much as I would love to just do this again and do Ask Jeff Anything, we're going to be talking about Destination X 2009. Sting's in the main event. He's going to be defending his title against Kurt Angle. It's all over the battle of the main event Mafia. You're going to be the special guest referee. Foley's on the show as a special guest enforcer. Plus, we've got an Ultimate X match, Team 3D, and beer money in a no DQ match. AJ working with Booker for the Legends title, and a 10,000 tack match between Matt Morgan and Abyss. All that and more coming up next. If you've got a question for us, ask it over on YouTube. That's My World on YouTube.com. Or, of course, if you want to advertise on our program and you're looking to target men that are 25 to 54 years old, no better place to advertise than right here at advertisewithjarrett.com. Jeff, I can't thank you enough for all the time today, man. I hope that you and Miss Karen get to steal a lot of hotel soap this week.
Oh, God, man. I love these, man. Hey, next week, we're going to get into some ratings talk, and we're going to get into some, there'll be some controversial takes on it. And yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting because it was an interesting time. Empty arena match was a part of this build up. We're going to kind of get into the DNA of that, but there'll be a few controversial takes next week.
By the way, be sure to pick up 2 new shirts available now at boxofgimmicks.com. If it fits, it ships. And I steal towels exclusively on the Jeff Jarrett side of boxofgimmicks.com. Jeff, thanks for all the time today. Everybody be sure to catch AEW Dynamite tomorrow night. And, of course, Collision this Saturday. Tickets going on sale. Come see Jeff Jarrett coming to a town near you at AEWTIX.com. And we'll see you next week right here on My World.
Peace.